Hello and welcome back to Saved by the Bones, Part 2. Well, Frankie is in Vegas at this point and she's going to practice her card counting. Will it get back the money that her dead husband lost? Well, let's find out. Got it just right. She passed on the hotel buffet and opted for something at McDonald's instead. The burger sat as well as anything would have, and she tamped it into her gut by walking around the block to the Golden Nugget. She planned to warm up at the $5 tables, and when she had enough money built up, she'd hit the high limit area. The night started a little slow. Frankie let the dealer explain the rules to her and played timid until she tripled her original stake. The other people at her table didn't take notice until she won both hands on a split and then cleaned up by doubling down a few rounds later. Frankie left for a real game when the dealer looked at her with a hint of suspicion crossing his face. It was easy to find a seat at the medium stake tables. Frankie knew most people playing blackjack don't want to test their skill at $25 a shot. She did. She would have walked straight to the high stakes area if she thought it wouldn't raise suspicions, but it would. Strangers on a winning streak got pegged as card counters right away. When that happened, they got invited to leave. Frankie never had to leave the second table. She noticed right away that the dealer seemed lazy or careless. Didn't matter which. He dug his cut card into the bottom of the stack way too deep. When a dealer did that, he negated any advantage the house might gain by limiting the number of cards played before a reshuffle. A mistake like that was magic for a card counter like Frankie. It never occurred to her that there might be a side game going on, that the dealer might feed a friend and get a real tip at the end of the night. Frankie started slow, stayed with the minimum bet, and only let herself win enough to build up her pot of chips. Except for one person who accused her of stealing his luck before getting up and leaving, nobody at the table seemed to notice her winning streak. The rest were too focused on winning themselves. Some had come back here before running out of cash playing high stakes, and some didn't have enough to graduate to the big leagues. Over the course of the next 4 hours, Frankie turned her last $782 into something close to $65,000. Satisfied with a great start, she cashed out before getting invited to leave. Beginner's luck was one thing, but card counting, that was another. At the cash window, she collected just about $47,000 after withholding tax and stuffed the wad of hundreds into her purse. "Can we offer you an escort back to your room, ma'am?" The clerk remained professional, distant. "No, I'm staying at the Four Queens. I can walk. It's just around the corner." "I can arrange for one of our concierges to go with you." It almost sounded like the cashier recited from a script. Nothing in his manner showed any real need for an escort for such a short walk. "No, but thank you. I'm sure I'll be just fine." "As you wish." The cashier finished up his duty. "Thank you for visiting us at the Golden Nugget. Please come back and visit us again during your stay here in Las Vegas." He manufactured a smile for Frankie. "Why, thank you. I think I will be back. I've never had such luck. Your dealers are great. I barely knew how to play when I first walked in." "Well, then you've done very well. I hope to see you tomorrow or later tonight if you can't get to sleep. This is a noisy corner." This time the cashier sounded interested, and Frankie considered coming back in a few hours. After she'd had her winnings stored in the room safe, that is. "It is noisy. I'll see how the night goes. Thanks again." With that, Frankie headed for the street and found herself in a world of neon as soon as she stepped onto the sidewalk. If she'd only been a dealer in Vegas, how would her life have turned out? She figured it would be a different version of the same thing. Life offered choices, but it followed a path. At least she believed it did. Either way, she was setting it back on track, and $47,000 got things off to a great start. She looked at the intersection just off to her left. She'd come from the hotel that way. A crowd of people gathered on the corner now, celebrating something. Not wanting to land in the middle of a party, Frankie walked back to her room the other way. It added a block, But the night was warm and she didn't mind the atmosphere. She decided to take care of money business and then hit a buffet. The burger she'd had earlier didn't quite do the trick. She started off and crossed at the next set of lights. The parking lot for Binion's was right there, and she cut through the middle to save a few feet. When she got halfway across, she heard a person behind her. He said something, trying to get her attention. She turned around and found herself face to face with a tough-looking man that had a lot of tattoos, at least on the skin that she saw, which was a lot. Transfixed with the size of him, she didn't notice his fist coming up to hit her in the face. If she'd remained conscious, the blow would have hurt. Now, she wouldn't feel it for quite a while. Frankie woke up inside of what looked like a van. She knew they were going down a highway because of the road noise, steady and loud. There was a window in the back door. Light shone down, flashing across her face as if to wipe the daze from her scrambled thoughts. She focused on the glare. It came from fixtures much taller than anything you'd find inside a city, so this had to be out of town. Where? She had no clue. She pulled herself up, sitting at first and then graduating to a kneeling position. Fingers found a small railing along the wall and held onto it as she stood, hunched for a look out the window. The lights of what seemed like a roadside attraction faded off into the distance. Behind them and much further away, she made out Las Vegas. Her mouth felt dry as she considered the reasons for being taken on such a drive. None of them were good, and all of them ended with her being dead. She remembered her purse and looked back into the van to find it. It wasn't there. She put together a story of what happened, and money wrote itself in the first sentence. There were $47,000 in that purse, more than enough reasons to mug her. But that didn't explain this van. There had to be something more, something she was missing. She almost fell over when the van slowed and made a hard right turn. It threw her against the side, and she only stayed upright by grabbing the railing with both hands. She looked out the window as the van passed another set of buildings. They looked like some highway stop. An old neon sign flashed something she couldn't make out before the letters grew too distant to read. Steady again on straight blacktop, the driver punched it, and Frankie found it easiest to lean against the back door. She watched the road narrow with perspective. A crescent moon hung over an ever-expanding stretch of desert that separated her from that last lifeboat of safety. She watched for 5 minutes as the lights turned into a twinkle against the backdrop of Vegas haze. Just before the van slowed down to round a corner that took it out of sight, Frankie saw a set of headlights off in the distance. And that's the end of part 2. Sorry to do that to you. I promise I'm going to finish this next Friday, so part 3 is coming up. Hope you like the story. If you do, why not subscribe? If you like our channel, that's another great reason to subscribe. Button's down there. You know, I don't know where it is. I can't find it. Anyway, stay crazy. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.